Hello and welcome to the Hunt, Banish, Extract podcast, the podcast that has time traveled back to 1895 Louisiana. I am your host, the Drunken Bard, aka DJ, and with me are three of my beautiful co-hosts today: Sleepy Weasel, aka Tyler,
right here,
Sir Kaiser, aka Richard,
I am also present.
the patron saint of 3 stars, aka Rat329.
We have finally unmerged ourselves.
And we have a very special YouTuber guest, most known for his Hunt Showdown lore videos and shenanigans, Hazmat.
Hello, I don't have COVID.
This is his natural voice. We swear.
We're not worthy.
As a matter of fact, if you want to find out the lore behind his own voice, you'll have to go to his YouTube channel, which I'm going to leave in our description. Okay, so Hunt is sort of like a big bag of holy shit because there is so much evil and corruption and crap going on. And it started with what appears to be the devil, the sculptor, in like 1893, corrupting the whole bayou.
Yeah, we don't really know what the sculptor is. It's kind of like this evil entity that seems hell-bent on taking over the realm by not really taking over the realm.
just kind of indirectly, just causing chaos.
Yeah, and then we have these guys named the AH8 that really wants to stop it, but they also really want to kill each other because you can get a lot of money from killing other people.
It's almost like politics will
I was gonna
prevail.
say,
And I mean, some of them have nitros. You can sell those for pretty. Oh wait, no, it's contraband. We can't sell that.
Yeah, no, we can't do that.
holy
Well,
crap!
Not till we
I
get the
didn't
update.
think that way.
But rifts opened. Is that how it started? It was just random rifts opening everywhere in the Louisiana bayou?
It started with actually insanity spreading among the people within the bayous, and people started to lose their minds. People would get nightmares, insomnia, and they would start killing each other. And the government originally thought it was the yellow fever because that had already spread in Louisiana at that time. So they thought it was the return of that. But then they found out that the people that got killed when people turned on each other, they came back alive. So
Yeah,
And their hearts.
That's
were just
actually
kinda like
sick.
a ball of black tar.
yes,
and
I actually I don't know
graveyards too.
if that is still within the game, but you're right. In at least in the old lore, the grunts' hearts when they got opened by one of the doctors, Dr. Reed, I think, he found larvae and moth crawling within the black tars of their veins. It's a really cool piece of lore.
I know it's still in the Monstrum, so I don't think it's necessarily out of the canon yet. And I think it was, I'll find the doctor, Reinhard Winkler.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That guy. I
Yeah,
have a bit of trouble keeping up with what is still in the game and what has been retconned at this point.
If
Yeah, like,
Go ahead.
Sorry, like the one that just drives me nuts because I always liked that the lore matched the game mechanics. Like they had a reason for everything, including the 60-minute timer. Like you could only be out there for an hour before it started fucking your shit up.
We kind of brushed
then they were
on
like-
that on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they were like, we're gonna reduce the timer to 45 minutes. There's no lore reason for it. Just fuck you guys.
Yeah, and
I'm
in some of the newer lore, they've completely retconned the time limit as well. So the time limit doesn't have any lore reason to it anymore because the redneck he lives within the dead zone now. In the, I think it's the Devil's Moon event, they have a segment where they confirm that redneck is living within the dead zone. So there is no timer
Interesting.
anymore.
So
So
he
where's
doesn't
the-
stay at his Moses Poultry anymore, where he actually lived. That's
He said
Redcon.
he's not going. He said he's not going anywhere.
Interesting.
So where is the dead
It's
zone? Is
my
that just
land.
the bayou in general?
Yeah, the dead zone is several areas within the bayous of Louisiana.
Okay.
Well, and that's kind of what I thought was so freaking cool too, is they don't know if it's airborne, the total infection, or if it's skin to skin, if it's
Or water.
body liquids. Yeah. scratching and biting is always a guaranteed transformation. Like,
Yeah.
It is actually hinted in several pieces of the lore. Again, this is just on speculation on my part, but they emphasized it in several pieces of the lore where they basically say the air was heavy with insects, mosquitoes. So
Right.
they
Oh.
point to that several times within the lore that this particular summer the air was filled with insects.
that's interesting because it also
Yeah.
said with the black hearts that Rat was referencing that the grunts they believed insects pulsing through their blood. That was believed to be something that
Yeah.
was corrupting
Exactly.
them.
The lore nerds believe that it's insects that is spreading the disease and corruption.
Which would make
Which
the
also
most
ties
sense.
into,
Well-
yeah, exactly. Like if you look at the hives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of the first like creations after the grunt was the hive, and it was a bunch
Yes.
of, like, pregnant women? Isn't that correct?
I don't know if she was pregnant. It's Ada's mother who became the first hive, where she just froze within her living room and got swarmed by flies and bees, and they crawled into her mouth and ears and
Oh.
eyes, and then she just broke in two with that beehive protruding from her chest.
Oh, jeez.
That is
No.
morbid as shit.
Now,
Dude,
if I
you haven't
remember
read
right,
that, yeah, if you haven't read that piece of lore, you absolutely should. It is
Oh, it's-
amazing.
it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
But if I remember right, technically the first hive was that 13-year-old girl that they all thought got virgin married into pregnancy, and then they like
Yeah.
went and
Yeah, I
checked
guess
Right.
you're right.
with a big,
I guess you would
beehive in her
technically be
uterus.
right about that. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
And then, go ahead.
No, sorry, that was just it. He's technically right. I think she would technically be the first one, but they removed the hive from her belly.
Before she.
Yes, before she
Yeah.
transformed, so that makes sense.
And then they have the basically the entire husk that grows so violently in their chest that it breaks their necks
rips
to
them.
the side.
Yeah.
Very
So fun fact
alien-esque.
if you didn't know that. And also, meatheads are born from the hives. Like
Oh,
pregnant
yeah.
women in the bayou specifically, their babies turn into what
Yeah.
results in a meathead.
Wait, what? Elaborate, please.
The meathead is the original meathead was born by a hunter named Hannah, and she was particularly powerful. So the baby fed off of her being connected to the other side, and the stronger she grew, the stronger the fetus got, and the more corrupted she became, the more corrupted the fetus became. So in the end, it killed her when she gave birth to it, and it became the meathead.
Didn't
Oh
she
my
also
God.
get like even more crazy powerful just from being pregnant that whole time?
Yeah. She grew more and
see.
more powerful. They were just like in a constant negative feedback loop to one another.
Yeah, it was like corruption. I mean, it sounds like normal pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
God,
He
in
had a
heaven.
craving, and that craving was blood.
Oh my god.
Was that whole thing with the meathead born from Hannah that caused the AHA to go over to Lynch's serum?
Yeah, that was when they started
Well-
using her serum that had the whole weird ritual with
Ritual,
like the guy who
yeah.
was half out of the circle and half in, and they like removed his tongue and
Oh, would you-
Sorry.
Would you-
the original inoculum is it's so good.
I was just going to say, would you guys care to elaborate? Because a
Yeah.
lot of people have no idea who Lynch is besides the Black Widow
Wow,
gun
let's
that
hear
has a
about-
description.
Yeah,
Sure
so
about
Lynch is the provider of the current serum, Serum 2, that the AHA is using. Before Lynch was introduced, they used their own type of serum, which included some weird type of elixir that tasted like nails. So there might have been some blood in there or something.
You're right.
And
God.
and it involved drinking this weird potion while walking in circles and chanting specific things. And that was how they gained their initial immunity from the other side. But as it turns out, based on hives and meatheads, the protection wasn't complete. So they turned to Lynch instead, who is something. We don't know what Lynch
Yeah,
is.
mysterious character.
Literally.
She's something from the other side.
Yeah.
And
Well,
she hates the sculptor almost as much as she hates us. So I think it's
Right.
a poison type of situation.
So
'cause she's
Lynch
like-
isn't
go ahead.
connected to the sculptor. Like she isn't like or it or whatever it is, isn't like a servant of the sculptor then.
No, she wants revenge. It sounds
Yes.
like.
Yeah,
Okay.
She's just like trying.
Exactly what Weasel said. Lynch wants revenge over the sculptor. We don't know what the sculptor has taken from her, but it's we speculate that it is currently in a situation where Lynch herself would like to be in our realm.
She was just
Okay.
some homeless orphan kid, and
Mhm.
then she got taken in by the AHA, and then she was.
Don't forget about the
super,
tarot
super
cards.
fucked up. Yeah, the
Yeah.
tarot cards that she was obsessed with, and
Yeah,
So does that mean-
that's also the thing, because what you're referencing now is Bad as They Seem, and that is an in-universe novel by Collins. So we can't take Bad as They Seem as true, because
Aw.
he's a novelist within the Hunt universe. So the entire Bad as It Seem might be made up.
Interesting.
we were
I'd
actually
prefer
just
it.
talking about this, me and Sleepy.
Yeah.
We were saying that like the reason I like the way that the lore is written is because it's like 90% of it feels like just some newspaper clipping somebody found in a shed somewhere, and so
Yeah,
it's
it's-
all secondhand.
Giant telephone game. People don't know what's rumors, what's real. Everything is just open to
That's
your own
exactly what drew me in
speculation.
as well. That unreliable narrator, and that you have to piece the pieces together yourself. That was
Yeah.
exactly what drew me in to begin with.
Well, that's what Souls games always did so well is in-universe storytelling.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah.
the difference between Hunt and Souls games, though, is that Souls games don't retcon their own shit 5 years in.
Maybe. I mean,
Hey, God,
we have
don't get
PS1,
Hazmat going yet.
PS3.
We're 12 minutes in. It's too soon for him to get angry.
Oh, what about the serum? Like when Lynch saw that the AHA, because in Lynch's interest, she wants the AHA to kill the sculptor or rid the world of the sculptor, so she can take over. So she provided them with a more efficient serum, which was done through
A horrendous ritual.
Absolutely.
Okay.
By nailing a guy to the ground, or a woman, or a child, or whatever she could get her hands on, she would nail them to the ground with railroad spikes. Then she would peel out their tongues, gouge out their eyes, and then flay them alive.
Oh my God.
And that would be used as bait to lure one of the demons from the other side, a demon that we don't know what looks like, a special type of demon.
And if they
And
ever, oh, go ahead.
She would then she would then take the skin from the flayed person and turn it into rope, which would then have a curse on it. So she could use that cursed rope to tie up the demon and kill the demon and distill the demon's blood and put it in syringes and tell people to inject that shit.
And people are just like, "Yep."
Yes.
All right, cool.
And
She's
yet,
like, hey, remember when that cop came to your school and said never use a dirty needle? Forget all that shit. Here you go.
if they
This is why the cops do that now.
if they ever come out with a model for Lynch and she's even remotely pretty, there's gonna be that one asshole that's like, I can fix her.
I mean,
Everybody
I'm
looks
not
at her and
gonna
they're just
say
like,
no.
everybody looks at her and they're just like, wood.
Yeah, they just say would.
Railroad spikes peeling off my skin. Small price.
It's actually funny because in terms of how the game works, I always felt like Lynch would be the only character that fits into the whole cycle of the game, because we see Sheriff Hardin dying all the time, but he's just a regular human. He might be a legendary hunter, but if Sharon Hardin dies, right, he's dead. But Lynch is literally unkillable in the lore, so seeing her again and again and again as a legendary hunter would make sense in terms of the lore.
Oh.
Like, speaking
That's
of her,
cool.
like, the last time we even saw her in person prior to the Tide of Desolation story arc was when she fucking turned into a snake and then disappeared.
Yeah, but
Like-
that's in Bad as They Seem, so we
Yeah,
can't be sure
It's
about that.
rumors, yeah.
But
Okay.
but then you go to the Tide, I think it was Tide of Desolation, where they go into the land of the dead afterward. They get through the gates and she's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, she's still around. Also, Chari is showing up a bunch to just make fun of the daughter of Decay.
Yeah.
Do with that what you will.
So
I also
Sherry.
don't. Sorry. Yep.
Oh, I was gonna ask, like, so Sherry he shows up around the time that Lynch shows up. Is that correct?
Mr. Cherry, he's like he's way after. He came in what was the
Okay.
first big event? The one where they
Crow
Hide the
one,
Shadows?
isn't it?
He showed up in in Trader's Moon, I believe.
Raiders
Very
Moon, yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Oh, it's
first
Trader's
of the moon things. That was where Cherry showed up.
Okay.
And that was where he first started like sacrificing people to the moon by like handing them a gun and making them sit in a circle that he drew in the dirt and
Yeah,
I
would
because
really,
burn the
I
living
really
shit out of
like
them.
that first. Yeah, I really like that first part of the Trader's Moon with that whole ritual circle. I thought that had some amazing potential in terms of depth.
Well, and I'm unsure of the group's name. It has the Bone Doctor, Felice, and Weird Sister, but the whole
Boys,
voodoo
or
concept.
the voodoo community.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're some of my favorite. Their lore is really freaky.
makes sense.
Well, and even I was reading because the trials, which are soon to go away, it even states that the Bone Doctor specifically gets most of his bones from like dug up graves, and Blanchett Graves was one mentioned.
dude, I
And
didn't even know that. That's pretty cool.
And it specifically said some of his favorite bones to use in his voodoo rituals were those of hive women. Well, obviously they're all
Interesting.
women, but you know what I mean.
Lovely.
So
Yeah.
you're saying he wants to bone the
Menhized.
hive.
Oh my god.
Nice.
No, but apparently they possess more power because they have direct corruption from the sculptor, so he's able to produce more powerful voodoo through the hives.
That's amazing. That's such a nice detail. He's also rumored in the lore to be immaculately powerful compared to other hunters in terms of understanding the corruption.
Well, it makes me wonder what you were saying about Lynch, how she is able to resist death, if maybe he's finding a way to resist death through finding these powerful bones from the actual defeated like grunts and
Monsters.
hives and armoreds and
Well, the thing with Lynch is that the reason why she doesn't die is because she might appear in human form, but that's just how she looks in our world. That's my perception, at least. The
Oh.
body that Lynch encompasses, it's just so she can exist in our world.
Right.
She's something else.
I just wonder if maybe there's powerful enough voodoo where they could resist the other side and possibly return to their own. I don't know, just theory.
Yeah, in the original lore, where that Fassi, he wrote that the voodoo community was supposed to be a much bigger part of the lore, but that's been tuned down because they were afraid of the negative backlash from
Right.
diving too deep into voodoo, because it already has a bit of a stigmatism in the
Connotation.
United- yeah. So they were afraid of diving too much into that.
And speaking of that, I think that one of the things that they did to just avoid diving too deep into that was just saying they didn't have anything to do with it, but everybody blamed them.
Yeah,
Yep.
but I
Well,
like that angle too.
I do too. Yeah, I think it also makes sense too. Like, of course, back in the day where we would persecute anybody for anything, like,
Exactly.
oh, all this dark stuff is happening. Well, it's definitely this voodoo guy.
Yeah,
And then
I
he's like,
think it's
nope.
such a good angle.
It's definitely that fuck wearing all the bones.
Yep.
Boner doctor.
Yeah.
Well, and it's such a cool time period where it's like a very vulnerable time period and where humanity is just kind of starting to not even technologically develop. And so, the Old West was probably the perfect setting. I don't think
Yeah.
there is a lot of Old West zombie games.
Actually see a lot of people complaining about the time setting and the weapons that they're using, especially on Reddit, where people are like, actually, but-
Actually, I know what's best for the game.
yeah, one of the original writers, he reasoned that this organization, the American Hunters Association, they're basically below a couple of layers below the Illuminati, right? So they have, of course, access to the most cutting edge technology, which is how he kind of like reasoned that they have access to weapons that weren't invented yet.
And that's
Yeah.
how we got scopes.
Well, and one of the bigger and more interesting slices of the lore is specifically some of the bosses. Rad, do you want to take us away with one of them?
uh, which one do we want to start with? Because they're all
Princess.
so good.
No, we
Princess?
gotta
No,
save
no. Princess has
for
to.
later.
Yeah, Princess has to be saved.
Butcher.
Butcher.
Yeah, Butcher. So
classic.
Butcher, if I remember right, and I think that Hazmat did a video on this, so I don't want to go too far into detail on it, but basically a taxidermist did some shit to a meathead, and now he's on fire all the time.
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
It literally could be summed up that way.
I'm not even kidding you. Like a taxidermist that was like, everybody looked at the shit he was making. They're like, that's fucking creepy, dude. Get the hell out of here. So he went out into the bayou and started doing his own shit. And he had
Do
this
we
like
know this
special.
taxidermist's name?
Oh fuck, what's his name?
I can look while you're describing.
But like he went out into the bayou and he was like practicing on his own stuff. And then he found what he described as a large headless thing that had the skin like an elephant. And
I
he
see.
dragged it into this shed and he like put this concoction that he made to make that was like really special, this weird concoction shit to make it so that it wouldn't burn. And he put it on there.
Oh.
And then he was like, well, this still looks kind of weird, so I'm gonna put a fucking pig's head on there.
Yeah, one of the people that commented on the video had the best comment for that, because he remarks he thought the creature was too unsettling, and then the guy in my comments wrote, "Oh yeah, let's add a butchered pig head on top of it, much better."
Yeah, he thought it looked too unsettling, so he slapped a pig's head on there, and then he's like, "Cool." And then it came back to life. And he tried to burn the building down to get rid of it, but he was like, "Oh shit, I forgot I put that stuff on there," and now it's just always on fire.
No,
It
no,
never stops being on fire.
It was
the thing got hit by lightning, like in Frankenstein. The meat hook,
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
yeah.
the meat hook that
Okay.
the butcher has is on fire. You can literally see it's been struck by lightning, so it's a reference to Frankenstein and the original what's it called? The original Greek mythology, where man was created from clay, because the mold of the meathead is made by clay, so it's a combination of those two things, and it's mentioned right before. What's his name? The taxidermist? I forget.
It's Ariel Denoy.
Denoy, yeah.
Thank you.
Before Denoy goes to sleep, he mentions that there's a thunderstorm coming. So the lightning strikes the butcher and brings him to life, and then he kills Denoy.
Oh, makes sense.
That's
So
the
Denoy
fucking
was
cool.
yeah, Denoy was a complete fucking dumbass in terms of taxidermy. He really sucked at it, but the fire protection that he made was absolutely sublime. His entire house burned down, and none of his taxidermied creatures was damaged in the fire.
Hmm.
He was also really good at, like, if I remember it, their eyes were specifically mentioned.
Yeah, that was what he
Like-
especially sucked at.
Yeah, he really sucked at doing the eyes, but he was like, "Well, I suck at literally everything else, but I'm gonna make all these shitty things that I've made indestructible."
You know, that would actually be a really cool like map location to have like all these taxidermy animals just like stacked in a
That'd be
shit.
scary,
circle or
dude.
something like that, and it's just got ashes around it.
That'd be scary.
If I
Drake is
remember
already
correctly-
terrified. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Drake is already terrified of all the baby dolls all over the fucking place. Let's not do that to further drive home that fear.
If
No,
I
let's do it.
remember correctly, the lore states that Denoy was operating out of the slaughterhouse in
Oh,
in
Okay.
one of the maps.
Okay.
yeah, and that kind of makes sense with the butcher head and all that. Sort
Yeah,
of stuff,
yeah,
too.
exactly.
I do agree with Richard's one of Richard's takes he said a couple of times where I think more story should be shown in the map itself, not just laid out in text for us to read. A lot more people might get into lore that way.
It's how
you're
other
absolutely right.
games drive in things too, and it works. It makes me excited.
Well, I'm-
Completely agree. I couldn't agree more.
And I would love to see that too, but They also say right at the beginning of the Butcher story, the documentation is clearly unreliable. So, like,
But that sounds like an excuse not to make something cool, man.
I gotta
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Unfortunately, and sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it sounds like a room for error. Sorry.
yeah, you got a point.
The original narrative team had like exactly what you're talking about. They wanted to convey the story through the game itself, but
Mhm.
it was disagreement about the approach to how to handle the lore that kind of separated the two in terms of how they wanted to handle things. So, but yeah, I completely agree with you guys.
Well,
And
like,
then-
real quick, Rhett, sorry. You actually had an interview with one of the first people involved with Hunt Showdown, which you guys should absolutely watch. I'll make sure to link that video specifically. Just want to point that out.
It's Fassi. He's one of the original writers and narrative designers of Hunt Showdown, and I gotta say, the ideas that this guy had for Hunt Showdown and the directions he wanted to take it in, it makes me so sad that what we're getting right now is not that, because the events are just not up to par with his ideas. Like I would love to touch on his original idea for Hunt Showdown and how the corruption came to the BIOS, but it's so dark that I can't even go into it.
I mean, you can. We are on an 18+ podcast.
Well,
Yeah, but I promised him not to dive into it. But his original idea is just way better than what Crytek has at the moment, and especially the direction to take the game in as well.
at the very least, I hope one day it can be revealed.
Dude, I beg him almost daily on Discord. I'm like, hey, how about that story?
Rhett, you did have something you were saying before I interrupted. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. It wasn't important, clearly, because I forgot what it was.
Oh,
But no, it's I don't know. It's like David Fifield came in, looked at the original narrative team, and said, "My beard's more glorious than yours, so fuck out of here."
Pretty much.
I still love the meme where they photoshopped his beard
beard,
on
though.
his head. I'm sorry, Fifield, but that shit's funny as hell.
Dude, my favorite meme was them taking his face and photoshopping it onto all of the dwarves from Deep Rock Galactic.
Oh my god.
And then for like 2 months after that, any video he was in, all of the comments were just rock and stone.
Oh,
Oh
man.
my god, no.
Man got trolled. Or did I say dwarfed?
Literally.
No, he didn't get trolled. He got dwarfed.
That's perfect.
Oh god.
He does have
Okay.
a great beard, though.
But then,
Instead
like,
of go ahead.
go on. But before we move on.
Well, I was just gonna say instead of roasting Fifield, so if you're staying on the subject, go ahead.
So moving on, like if the next one that I thought was really cool is the spider. Just that whole
Spider's my
God,
personal
that story
favorite.
is so good. I wish that they did better with like making the face look like the little girl, but either way, like this hunter's out in the bayou and he just finds a shitload of dead bodies, so he's like, I can't leave them all here like this. I'm gonna do the right thing. And even though it's a mass grave, I'm gonna dig them a grave and like put them all in there. And he carries each person individually into the mass grave and then he buries them. But the one that stuck with him was this little, what was it, a 6-year-old girl or 12-year-old girl?
I don't remember, but yeah, you're right. It's a little girl of some sort.
It was, I think, 9. I think it was between those ages.
Yeah, I think it might have been 9, but it was just this little girl. It says right here, first time we fought the spider, I remembered that night, that pit, that child's face swimming up at me out of the sodden earth and memory. Like, he remembers this little girl's face, and then like the sculptor corrupted this mass grave into just this amalgam of like further driving home that like bugs are the ones spreading it. He turned it into a giant spider, and then like when he went to go and fight it, that little girl's face was in the mouth of the spider, and like he remembered her eyes mainly because her face had been distorted.
If I had to rank one realization within Hunt Showdown, it's when the first time when you look at the spider and you're like, wait, that's not a spider at all.
Right?
Those are body
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah, when you notice the limbs.
Yeah, it's such a macabre creature. I absolutely love it.
That
Well,
is
and what
straight up a foot hanging out.
a
Yeah,
lot
by
of
the
people. Oh, go ahead, Hazmat.
the party that Red is referring to, that the hunter found within the barn, it is rumored that that is Dr. Reed's party within the bayou.
Ooh.
Dr. Reed is one of the doctors that went mad. He documents some of the progress on hunts on grunts, how the corruption changed them.
It does.
Yeah.
That does make sense. It says, seeing that eye, the thought struck me that Reed was responsible for this, but it was impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I completely missed that part. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, and what a lot of people are going to be maybe excited to realize about the spider is the person who indirectly created the spider is actually John Victor. It's that brand new Prestige 100 Hunter, the Geralt of Rivia voice guy. It's that
John
guy.
Hunt Showdown?
John Hunt
Yeah.
Showdown created the spider.
Out of trying to do something good.
Yeah, well, he was the one who put the bodies into the mass grave, and then I believe he returned to the bayou and he discovered the spider and was like deathly afraid of it and ran the first time, but then he felt guilty for what he had created, so he returned to try and kill it. And I'm guessing it didn't succeed.
He indirectly created it.
Yeah.
He was the one that
with
buried the mass
grave?
grave.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And then
and
Yeah,
it's
just sorry,
go
what
ahead.
you just said, Bart, also leads up to one of the original ideas that Fassi created within the Hunt Showdown narrative as well, and that is that you as the player, you as the hunter, you are also yourself an unreliable narrator. So
Oh.
whenever you have a game and you killed 8 people, did you really do that? Did you really
Yeah.
kill the boss? Did
Is
you
Hunt
really
a-
banish the boss?
Right.
Because
Is Hunt a fever dream?
Exactly. Because
I think one of the
if
big points was
Sorry, go ahead.
but I think one of the big points was people like kept coming back to the towns. They're like, "Yeah, I definitely killed the spider," and
No,
they're
you
like,
didn't.
"You
Oh, yeah,
lying
and they-
fuck."
Yeah, they would return with parts like proof, and then the spider would still be alive. That's right.
So that's the whole concept of the game is basically essentially these hunters are going in, but they're actually kind of nuts. They're not really doing anything.
Well, it's literally described as well, like Hazmat was describing in the very beginning. It's a madness that overtook Louisiana. So, are they even really sane the whole time they're there?
Is there really
Exactly.
a plague?
But then there
I
is
would
still
say yes.
there is still the
The
fact of
hunters-
the
Yeah, exactly. Like the plague and corruption is definitely still there, but even with the
Mm.
serum, like people still get worse and worse. You still get affected by the corruption. You just
So-
look at how tier 3 hunters, how they look like.
Yeah,
Okay, so the
Interesting.
serum is what protects them from that sort of stuff, so they can kind of at least survive, type of thing.
Yeah.
that
Exactly,
was-
but
Don't
the core
necessarily
element-
do things.
no,
that was
because the
what let
core
them
element
survive
of
for an hour.
yeah, the core element of Hunt Showdown is that with every action you perform, there is give and take. No matter what it is, there is give and take. So you take the serum, but you lose part of your soul in the process.
Okay, okay.
so
And
basically they become closer to the other side, which is not
Yeah.
good.
In like right now, as we see it right now, the dark side, when you go into dark side, you peer into the other world. But in the
Yes.
original idea, the other side is more like an onion with several different layers. If you're
It's an
familiar
ogre?
with if you're familiar with Dante's Inferno with the 9 circles, 9 layers of hell, that's exactly how it functioned in the old lore. So the more
Oh, okay.
corrupted you got, the deeper into the layers you could look.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense.
Now, was I right? I think it was last episode or the episode before that that I was talking about when you looked through the clue and like you claimed the clue, you basically got pulled through hell mentally. Like you'd feel every bone in your body break and like you'd go insane for a second, but you could kind of pinpoint slightly where the thing was.
Yeah, I think in that section of the lore where he touches the clue and he interacts with it, what he feels, because back then when you interacted with the clues, you got into the boss. That was how you were supposed to locate the boss back in the early stages of the game. So you interacted with the clue, and you saw through the boss's eyes,
Hmm.
and then you would have to guess the compound it was in through looking through the boss's eyes. So what you read in that clue in that particular piece of lore is the hunter being part of the spider, where it talks about his bones being bent back and fingernails pulled and jaw broken
Oh,
and neck broken and all that. He's experiencing what the spider feels.
yeah, that makes
That's
that makes
Oh,
cool.
more
interesting.
sense
I didn't
because
even piece
essentially
that
the
together.
spider's contorted, so he's feeling what. Oh, okay, that is
Yeah, and
awesome.
Okay.
then when he comes back, he smells the sulfur because that's the direct correlation between our world and hell. The smell
Okay,
of sulfur.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't piece that part together. I thought it was literally him being pulled through hell, like mentally, and that's why he felt every bone breaking.
Yeah,
They
that's
like
also
got
how I.
addicted to that pain, and so that's why they kept going
Yeah,
back in.
exactly. But that's also exactly how I interpreted the lore back then because I hadn't connected the piece to the spider. But what you're saying about the warmth, experiencing the warmth of hell, that's still completely true. And the hunters, they get addicted to chasing that warmth of the clues
Oh,
because
that's
they grow cold
interesting.
without it.
Oh my
Because
god.
they're
So
going
it's like,
further and further onto the other side, type of thing.
well,
It,
it's
it
Exactly.
it's like losing that part of their soul made them closer to a corpse, and that's why they can't warm themselves up.
Yes, exactly. Because you can see when you look at
Hmm.
tier 300s, they get more and more pale.
oh
Oh
shit. I
shit,
did not
really?
even pay attention to that.
I'm gonna hurry and look at that. That is
Hmm.
That
awesome.
sounds,
That
yeah,
also explains why
especially.
most of the legendary hunters are super fucking
Well,
pale
and
too.
that would also explain why they get more and more markings, like they're doing more and more of the rituals to try and stay in the bayou.
Exactly.
Oh
Hmm.
my god, you're
Mm.
breaking my brain. That's
So
amazing.
I had a question about the sculptor actually. So
Uh-huh.
all these bosses and stuff are like they're creations out of pieces from our world. Does the sculptor create anything from, let's say, hell itself? Like,
Hellhounds were believed to be that, but that's not confirmed.
but that's not confirmed because,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
if you notice the spider and the butcher, those are basically the sculptor using pieces from our world and just messing with them. Um, so, anything elaboration on that sort of concept?
It described the sculpture as this entity that is unable to create stuff on its own, but it can manipulate materials within our world.
Okay, so it
Yeah,
is a
and
sculptor.
right, and that's why it's able to create rifts and well, we can kind of start getting closer to a well, I also want to make sure we cover the bosses since those are all so fucking interesting.
Yeah.
But that gets closer to he's sort of the villain of Hunt Showdown, Sheriff Hardin, because he puts in literally anybody to be a soldier to fight against the entire corruption of the bayou because rifts start opening up everywhere. Once it started, it wasn't going to stop. And he would recruit the disabled, the mentally unable, children, or, like,
Orphans, yeah.
It
yeah.
started out with him recruiting prisoners, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he'd
Is
kill them
is
when
he
they came back if they survived.
is he the villain though?
That's
He's
that's
he's
exactly the question.
he's the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
see. Sorry.
when I say villain, I mean air quotes.
Yeah.
I see Harden as a guy who is like he gets shit done no
A
matter
means
the
to an end.
cost.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah.
the morally gray protagonist that so many women who read smut books just go ape shit.
Oh
over.
my god, it's
Oh,
true.
hell.
I mean, Red, it's not just women.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
God damn it, that was a bad time to take a drink. Fuck.
Well, and he also is heavily tied to Lynch, who we were talking about earlier, because he specifically worked beside her.
He
Mhm.
actually got trained by Lynch.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
because he was actually inexperienced
Part of
when
the
all of this
AHA,
started.
right?
Well, they ended up recruiting the AHA, him and Lynch, because they needed more bodies to throw at the corruption.
Oh,
And that
okay.
was when he was like, "Hey, there's a lot of orphanages around."
Yeah.
So that was kind of my question with, like, I guess, because it wasn't it like that one event with Mr. Sherry. You know how you gave him his little tokens or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, uh, wasn't he trying to stop Lynch, or wasn't there like some beef there? I think that's why I was kind of confused about their time and whatnot.
Sorry, I'm not completely sure about that because I'm not really caught up with the newest of the lore.
Okay. Well,
So
because
the
I
whole thing
remember
with Cherry, I'm not certain on.
these guys were talking about at one point that Mr. Sherry was like dead or something like that, and I don't.
Yes,
Yeah, he died in Devil's Moon.
Yeah, and the thing was, and the transition that you saw in game was you used to slit your hand to give a blood tribute to him. And then nobody really paid attention. They just thought it was the daily rewards. But that was actually like a blood tribute to Mr. Sherry, whatever the fuck his name is. And then now we like pop a bullet into a bucket, and I'm not sure if that one's even lore related anymore. But that's
I think they had to take out. They had to take it out because of backlash. I think.
Yeah,
really
people were complaining that it was
graphic?
promoting
Self-harm.
self-harm.
Yeah, exactly.
that's
exactly
since it's our
Wow.
podcast, God, you guys are stupid. Really? God damn it. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I hate when something that has nothing to do with reality crosses over in those boundaries. That's definitely not what it was saying.
But it's
It-
also a bit like these guys are a bit out of touch with reality and what the fuck is going on with the game. So you're telling me it's completely fine that I blast people in the face with shotguns, pistols,
Yeah.
fucking stab people, but I
Right.
can't cut like a guy can't cut his wrists? That's where you're drawing
Right.
the line?
I mean,
Exactly.
level,
And it's like we have this diverse array of characters, but you want to know that one has a certain sexuality. They're killing each other.
there's
Yeah.
like freaking
Yep.
children becoming monsters and dying and stuff like that. This is
Hey.
not a
Well,
a
and
PG
It's
game.
just pointless in a game like this. That's what it
Yeah.
feels like.
In
Yeah,
their
I
heads, they're
agree.
like, hey, kids don't play this game, but I'm sure that there's a lot of emos that play this game.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
Oh
I
my
feel
Alright,
God.
personally
with that,
called
I
out,
think we
bro.
should move on to the
Before we-
assassin.
Yeah. Maybe
So-
we should get back to the
Oh
bosses.
yeah, moving on to the next one. One of my favorite, both visually and in story, Vincent or Sika, the assassin.
Yes. This is one of the best ones.
I'm just going off of memory because I've watched your video on him probably like 9 fucking times. But like wasn't it that he killed like the mayor or something like that, framed the Italians for it, and then he made friends with what's his name? I think Harold Black is the name of the
Yes,
researcher.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
He made friends with him and like started trying to get information for the sculptor through him on what
He
the
killed
AHA was doing.
He killed the police chief, and I'm struggling to remember his name, but yeah, he killed the police chief and blamed it on the Italians.
Yeah. It was due to like racism and politics. It was literally
Exactly.
like yeah. He
And then
wanted
he
to cause.
infiltrated the political party.
Yeah. And yeah, so he practically just betrayed Harold Black the whole time. He just used him as like a sort of defense.
The assassin is also a really interesting perspective or point within the lore because it's so different from everything else. Everything else seems to be driven by this mindless urge to just devour and spread, almost like a cancer. But then in the middle of that, you got the assassin, which is infiltrating the city, assassinating party members, like plotting out an entire agenda and infiltrating political parties to gain information about what's going on with truth movements, political implementations, and so on. So it's a bit he's such an outsider in terms of everything else within the sculptor's arsenal.
See, and I think he actually fits perfectly there because it's like everything else is just consuming outright, but much like a cancer, assassin's working his way in and destroying things from the inside to destabilize people to make it easier to take them over.
Well, and it doesn't it doesn't specifically say if he works alongside the sculptor or not, but it seems like his motivations kind of say likewise.
Yeah, but also
like,
if you look at what Vincent is composed of, I would definitely draw parallels to the sculptor.
what were you saying, Ty? Oh, I'm sorry.
I
You
was just
said-
saying that the sculptor, if the sculptor can't create things outside of our universe, like they need,
To manipulate.
yeah, it's more of a manipulator. He needs knowledge of our world, and I think that's a good way of getting it too.
So I guess to my understanding, the assassin. So the assassin, as we know in the game, is that something like just what it turns into, or is it like transfer from being a monster to like a humanoid type thing, or what's the story there?
You want to take this, Red?
I honestly can't remember. He was
So
like,
when,
'Cause I
when
think-
when
he
he
can
befriends
disguise
Harold,
himself.
yeah, exactly. When he befriends Harold Black, he's like this tall, handsome man, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was exceptionally tall.
And then one night, where he says goodbye to Harold for the last time, he splits into the three swarms of cockroaches.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, even
that's how
before
it's known that he's the monster.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
even
was-
before when he first introduced himself to Harold Black, he didn't actually know himself as him as Vincent. He came across him and he saw him with a big protruding blade, and he actually had like a bug swarmed onto his face and like obstructed his vision. So it was like it was foreshadowing basically in the very beginning. Like he
Yeah.
never knew his enemy would become his best friend and then his enemy again.
Huh.
You know?
Yeah, if
It-
I
it-
remember right, that
Interesting.
first meeting, he chased him because he just saw him do something and was running away from like where the police chief was found.
Yeah.
So he chased him and then he scaled a vertical wall perfectly and just disappeared. And he was like, "What the fuck?" And then later on, he was in a bar getting drunk because Harold is an alcoholic. And then Vincent walked in and they became friends. And like for months, Harold
My
was
God,
talking to him and like giving him information and shit and like talking through shit, trying to figure shit out. And the whole time, the assassin was just gathering information.
Mhm.
Yeah, I completely forgot. I think the whole thing with the assassin assassinating the police chief, I actually think his plan backfired, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
I think that there was dude, it's so long since I made that video, so I don't remember it from point to point. But he assassinated the police chief with the intention of getting something, and then it got blamed on his friends, the Italians, which was why he was at the lynching and was so pissed. And that's where Harold saw him and chased after him.
Yeah, it was at the lynching, and he chased him down an alleyway, and then he scaled a wall and just fucking disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because he was exposed.
Oh,
And then,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
So-
it was so good. The story was it was probably the best written backstory for all of the bosses, and I think that if I remember right, Assassin was the very first boss, so that would explain why it was so well written.
No, Assassin was
He was-
added later.
Yeah, he was
Was
like
he?
third.
Yes, he was.
third.
Yeah, it was Butcher and Spider, and then Assassin was
Mhm.
added later, and then Scrap Big
Yeah.
following.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I guess
go.
a question I had as well is, so are the cockroaches a representation of the political atmosphere?
Oh my gosh.
That's deep.
Yo, going outside the lore and into real life.
This
Hey,
guy's
we're-
over
we're
here
just-
playing 5D chess.
We're just a bunch of fucknuts talking about a video game. Let's not get into real shit.
I just asked a question, like the political state,
It's actually an interesting angle. I gotta give him that.
That's actually one fascinating angle that some stories take. I'm not saying specifically Hunt. I absolutely don't think so. But when they do compare like emotions or even reality situations like politics into a story interpretation, I love that stuff. It's actually really
Yeah,
fascinating.
you just got to do it
Yeah.
right and like just implement it so artistically that it's just like it just feels right,
Yeah, then when you hear the
So-
comparison, you're like, oh my god, I never saw it
that's
that
also
way.
the thing with the assassination of the police chief Hennessy. His name is Hennessy. He
Hennessy.
actually got killed in real life, and the lynching of the Italians also happened in real life. So a lot of her
See?
story ties into real world events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That alternate history really plays a role as well.
Yeah, I love that. Same with the governor, Murphy J. Foster. That was also the actual governor at the time.
I
Oh,
love
the
that they
guy
did
who
that.
just
I
ignored
gotta love
everything.
it.
Yeah, exactly. And Dr. Hoff Jones is also an actual real person.
Whoa! I did not
I
expect that.
believe he was. Wait, was Huff the one that ran the mental asylum? Didn't he run an
Yes.
actual mental asylum?
Yeah,
Yeah, he ran a mental asylum, and
he's the director
I
of
think he also worked.
HA.
Yeah, he worked with a prison, I believe.
Yes.
That's fucking fascinating. I wonder
It's
if
really
Monroe
cool.
was. I just hope that Monroe was based off of a real person because that shit's so cool.
Not until we see them toes.
The toes. Oh my. Monroe. Wait, Monroe has shoes on, doesn't he?
No,
Yeah,
he
he's wearing
doesn't.
shoes. Well, everybody was saying we need a barefoot Monroe,
pretty
so
sure
maybe
he
they just
doesn't.
mixed the
Ew.
model.
I don't know why
Oh my
we're analyzing this. We should talk about Scrapbeak.
You know those
So-
sumo diapers? I want Monroe in one of those,
Oh God.
like a tiny one.
Speaking of Monroe, I don't know. Are you guys familiar with Unit 731?
No,
Oh,
but
fuck. That sounds familiar. Now,
what?
I know it from somewhere. I just can't remember what it was.
Unit 731 was this insane biochemical weapons development unit that the Japanese had during the Second World War.
Oh yeah.
They would just do inhuman shit to Chinese prisoners within Chinese territory, like vivisections on live people and shit like that.
Did they still deny that it existed?
Yeah, and they would
Yeah.
infect people. They would infect prisoners, especially female prisoners, with syphilis, and then they would vivisect them while alive to see the effects on the female organs. And I think Monroe might be a hint that something like that happened to him within the Jackson Asylum, run by Dr. Huff, because he has like this big scar running
Yeah.
down his chest.
Oh wow.
Oh shit! That's
They
yeah.
also they also studied like flamethrowers on both covered and exposed skin.
Oh
They
yeah,
would study like the use of bayonets and swords and knives on live prisoners.
yeah,
Like
it's
Well,
dark
that's
shit.
inhuman
that's-
shit.
That's why
Yeah.
Huff's kit was a legendary healing kit, is because of how often he would have to bandage them after all of those like how often he would fuck them up.
Yeah, and
That actually makes sense.
they did a lot of like they would do tons of shit without anesthesia on live people, just vivisections without anesthesia, and it was mainly performed on like Chinese communist prisoners as well as children and elderly farmers because they wanted to see how it would affect different age ranges as well.
Yeah, it's
Like,
fucking crazy.
Absolutely fucked up shit.
And it's just been completely swept under the rug. But I'm getting sidetracked here. If you're
Well,
familiar with,
go
sorry,
on,
go ahead.
that's very.
It's fine. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, so we know he's got a big scar in his chest. Did they like do something to his, like, his eyelids? Because those eyes, man.
Maybe he just really
I
likes the
don't know.
pain.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he might have gone insane during the experimentation because it's rumored that Huff did a lot of crazy shit within the Jackson Asylum.
He's just like
Have
harder,
any of you
daddy.
seen have you read the William Salter journal?
I have, and it's so good.
It's so good. So William Salter is taken into the asylum and treated, and apparently, according to him, he undergoes a ton of weird shit. But William is also insane, so he's not the most reliable of narrators. However, in his escape attempt, he stabs one of the doctors in the neck with a pencil.
Jesus.
Dr. Lemonnier, and that doctor becomes one of the experiments of Huff as dictated by his own medical kit. That you can find Dr. Lemonnier's medical kit, and it says that Huff injected him with something that he didn't trust, and I don't think he was seen again after that.
You could call it the Lemony Snick kit.
That's
God.
every time Bard uses that one, it's cursed.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
tend to. We lose the match and we get no kills if I take my Le Monier's kid. So I think you're onto something with the lore there, Hazmat.
Yeah.
But moving on for bosses, Scrapbeak. Long story short,
Actually,
really shitty dad gets his legs blown off in the Civil War.
Brett, before we get into a whole can of worms, can I stop you there really fast?
Yes.
Because I got to touch on our lovely, lovely audience. It'll only take but a moment because we had a poll on our last episode, and this kind of gets into what we were bickering about before we even started recording. But I asked our audience, should Hunt add more strong things like the spear? We had absolutely similar but weaker and no, and absolutely got 3 votes. Similar but weaker got 4. No got 2. So I'm actually shocked how divided it seems, because I mean, absolutely and similar kind of sound like 2 yeses. I don't think so, because a lot of people definitely seemed like the spear was like, okay, maybe that's a bit much. So similar but weaker.
Everybody's like, we want Call of Duty level melee weapons.
Yeah, because I agree, similar but weaker. I love useful tools, but my god, the spear is a fucking pocket rocket. And Hazmat, what do you think overall?
Who really needs a spear when you got the knuckle knife? Am I right?
Thank you, a fellow mullet knife lover.
I always take the knuckle knife just because blunt is so much faster with it, but that spear's gnarly, man.
Hazmat,
Yeah, it
you've
really
just
is.
become my favorite person.
Oh, I love the knuckle knife. I can't get enough of it. It's my favorite thing.
Mullet knife gang, rise up.
So if I
Represent.
think what Hazmat's saying is when his partner skin comes in, it's a knuckle knife. Stay tuned. No, I'm kidding.
That would be actually sick.
I can only imagine.
It'll just have a carving of hide on the buttstock, so he actually hits something for once.
Don't roast his
That's
buddy while you
actually-
can't just.
There was actually one of my viewers who posted a personalized knuckle knife in my art section. Like that, I thought that was so sick. I wish Kryzik would do that.
Hear
If
that?
Kryzik had to hook me up with one thing, the knuckle knife skin, that would be perfect for me.
I think it would
Hell
suit
yeah.
you very well
I
too.
would never use any other knife skin.
And
I-
oh, go
I
ahead, Ty.
I think it's interesting how everybody chooses their favorite weapon. Like mine's the Officer Brawler. I can't remember your guys' favorite weapons, but
The Lamat of any kind.
hell
A
yeah.
PAX, just a PAX. I like the PAX.
Because Bard's Paxson.
Oh my god, Christ! Don't open your mouth. All right. And last episode, Hazmat, if you haven't listened to it, don't bother. It's I'm locking that one in the fucking vault.
It's chaos, to say the least.
It really is.
2 of our viewers, Martin,
Beautiful.
aka Kit, y'all are unhinged without Bard. Great episode, guys. Also, hot
Welcome,
take for
Kit.
you. I don't like Princess, not even a little. Sorry, Rat.
How
So-
could you not love Princess?
Yeah, she's adorable.
And Penguin said, "Love it, best one ever. Keep the laughs coming, Penguin. I'm ashamed of you, boy."
Don't be ashamed.
Okay.
We've
And
only done 2 episodes without Bard, and so far both of them have been unhinged as hell.
no,
actually.
a 3. Yep. Richard
3?
had one. Yep.
Oh yeah,
That's
it is
right.
3.
Me,
Actually,
that was what
and then
Banish Flex came
together.
in. Yep.
One
Yep.
of them is actually where Hazmat managed to find us funny.
That was my episode.
Yeah.
It's red.
It's right.
He's taking credit.
Back to the lore, though, because you were talking about Scrap Beak with the dad
Yeah,
getting his legs
so-
blown off.
So yeah, really shitty dad gets his legs blown off in the Civil War, starts selling
Can you
scrap.
elaborate
and
on
then,
the shittiness?
he loved his birds far more than he loved his child.
What did his child ever do for him?
Nothing. his
Yes.
his child killed his birds for him. That's all he did.
Oh, man.
Oh god.
But yeah, no. So he got his legs blown off, and then like to support himself afterward, he started selling scrap. He got married. He was a very angry, like very disconnected father. He didn't
Kind of
seem to really
screams
like his family whatsoever.
obnoxiously and swinging his
Oh no,
arms
no, no!
around.
That was after his birds were murdered
No,
by his son.
I think he
What would that even be? Like aviacide?
Question. Well,
Probably.
wasn't his marriage also really loveless, too? It was just like mutual agreement, more or less.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
pretty
It was like a
much.
loveless marriage,
Mm.
and he did not care about his kid whatsoever. So finally, after a while, he takes his son out to go and gather scrap in the dead zone so that he can sell more shit. And he's just loving on these birds and doting on these fucking crows
Oh,
more than he
before you
even
move
talks to his
on,
kid.
before you move on, Red, that is exactly one of the pieces of the lore where the guy talks about how filled with insects the air was in that particular summer.
Oh fuck, you're
Oh.
right. You're right. God, where is
That's
I
one of the
don't have
early
it
events, yeah.
like unlocked that far to where I can see it. Damn it. And funny enough, the guy, like the old man, was actually called Avis, like that was his name. So Avis, avian
Yeah,
bird, and everybody called
exactly.
him the Rag and Bone Man because he just like wore rags. He didn't have nice
He was too,
clothing.
he's just
I
too
think
cheap.
Avis means bird in Latin, if I remember correctly.
I believe so. But yeah, so like his name literally means bird, so he's literally Big Bird.
Okay, get
so
out.
so sorry, that's my call out for him. I'm like, Big Bird's here. But so he takes his son out into the bayou. There's bugs fucking everywhere. Dude's like doting on his birds because he loves these birds, but he couldn't give like a fuck less about his kid. And his kid gets all pissed off, waits until he goes to sleep, and then breaks the neck of every single bird and then lays them out in display for his dad when he wakes up. And then his dad wakes up, loses his mind, and then his son beats the living piss out of him and then leaves him in the bayou for dead. And then they hear like the Scrap Beak iconic screech in the background, and
And
that's when the sculptor brings him back.
allegedly, the beak on Scrapbeak was mounted on Avis's face by his son because Harold Black mentions that it was done like before the
Posthumously?
pre transformation, that it seems like the scar tissue. I don't remember the wording exactly, but Harold Black thinks that the mask was placed on the face of the father by the son in spite because he hated his bird so much.
Makes sense.
And
Yeah.
like it
It's like a
further goes
mockery.
into lore with him, which is really interesting, where like the concertina armoreds, apparently those are just armoreds that got in the way when Scrapbeak threw a concertina bomb that he'd collected or something like that. Like just the concertina came from Scrapbeak.
Well, were they added before or after
They were
Scrapbeak?
there before Scrap
They,
Beak.
they were before, but after Scrapbeak got added, they added
The
that little
lore
bit of
kind of was
lore
adjusted.
that
Right.
the concertina armoreds came from Scrapbeak.
If I
Huh.
remember
Like-
correctly, Scrapbeak is known as like the shadow of death or something within the lore. I don't remember exactly what it is they call him,
It
but
says those who have only seen Scrapbeak from afar or heard tell of his ghastly silhouette are convinced that it is Death himself come to wander the bayou.
and I always thought that was so funny when it came out because he was like this cute little bird that made bird noises, and then the stats came out from Crytek, and Scrapbeak is the boss that kills most hunters.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
yeah.
he's by far the
He's
most
the one that has
underestimated.
shovels, and you know what? He might have a spear at some point, so we better fucking run.
I
Oh,
I
I
will
didn't even think of
attest.
that.
I'll attest because I don't often die to bosses because of the many hours. That's just cope coming out of my mouth now. But Scrapbeak's definitely the one that's on my ass the most times.
The
It-
fucking
it-
concertina will get you if you're in a tight spot, dude. You're not
Oh,
gonna be
yeah.
able to
Real.
move, and
Yeah.
he's gonna fist you with that shovel.
Oh yeah, my dumb ass is gonna fucking run in there, and he's either gonna get a big dynamite bundle shoved up his ass or a sticky to the face. And I'm running back out because if I'm in there for longer than 7 seconds, I get killed.
He's a dangerous little bird.
I'll have to remember that next time I'm playing with you.
Yeah, just let him get through his hissy fits, leave him in his room, and then when he's ready to calm down and come out of his room, then you can go back in.
When he's ready to speak like an adult who has a shovel and like no sense of spatial awareness.
And then he remembers, somebody killed my damn birds.
Well,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
he's pissed. He's like, every time I look at a hunter, I see my son, and I want to beat him to death with a shovel.
Well, if I was a cranky cripple with metal legs and all my favorite pets were killed, yeah, I'd probably act like him too.
Hey, they got replaced. Look at how many are around his compound.
It'll never
That's
replace
actually
the
a good
birdsea.
point.
Do you
Well,
guys
yeah, but
remember?
oh, come on! How many times have you remembered the dog or cat that you had when you were a child?
Dude, I've got pet rats. I don't fucking give a shit about cats or dogs.
Oh my God. Do you guys? That reminds me, him being so angry and stuff like that. Do you guys remember that art I made on stream a while back of Scrapbeak?
I think I do.
Yes.
It's the one with all the flames everywhere. You got like the redneck, the
I did
Yeah.
post it on our
That's
Instagram.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it kind of like makes more sense now that I have more lore information about him.
Oh yeah. Well, at the very least, well, did we cover Scrappy's everything?
Pretty
Mostly.
much. He was obsessed with birds. He was a shitty dad, and his son beat him to death.
Nice.
Damn.
That's about right.
Because
Yeah.
Pretty
well,
angry.
because the alligator on our logo, Rotjaw. I mean,
Everyone's favorite princess.
yeah,
And
that
I'm not
least
talking
favorite.
about Shadowheart.
I'm pretty sure she's the most ignored thing in the whole game. I think more people talk
Even by the
about the
developers.
unplayed skins.
I would say the
She's
flash
ignored
bomb
because
beats
nobody
her.
wants to kill their favorite princess.
I just think maybe the boss fight was really entertaining like the first 3 times, and then ever since it's just like it's like you have to repeat a pattern over and over again, and there's not much visual to her.
Well,
It's
it's
just
gotten
it's
better.
not
fine
worth it.
tuning.
Yeah.
It's gotten better because now she actually comes out of the water more, so you don't have to go into the water after her.
I
Like,
haven't
it used to
noticed a
be-
difference.
I
It
haven't
used to
either.
be that she would just stay under the water the whole fucking time until you stepped into the water, but now, like, if you're not in the water for more than like 10 seconds, she floats up to the top and swims around for a bit.
I can't be fucked to go kill the princess.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you have to stand out in the open and risk getting shot in the face by one of the bush Wookiees, and it's like
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Hey, bullet
This
drop's
is
gonna
bullshit.
fix that. Don't you worry.
No, it won't.
Not over time.
Yeah.
And there's
That-
also the whole clue situation, which was really interesting in the beginning when the rain came out and you had to follow the clue, and it actually felt like a hunt, like you had to follow the
Uh-huh.
trail. And it's just kind of when you're in the bottom left corner and it points towards the top right corner of the map, and you're like, I'm just gonna fucking extract. I got one bounty. Fuck that shit.
You're like, this is clearly more danger than it is reward. And
Usually for me, it's not about the danger. I just don't want to get into the asthmatic jogging simulator where you run from one corner of the map to the other.
well, what I mean by danger is,
Yeah.
like you said, standing out in the open for other teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But no, like she's the only one in the monstrum I haven't actually finished. That says a lot. And I've played this game I have played 2,000 hours.
Holy shit.
I'm at
That's more
800.
than
Yes,
me.
sir. Well, I mean, when you love the game and you have nothing else to do, I guess.
When does
But
it stop being love and when does it start being a problem?
well, it's
The
self-hate.
addiction.
Way past 1,000
Yeah.
hours.
After
I
about
mean,
the
I've already
fourth
got-
monster that you've punched after getting killed by a bush Wookiee was when
I
it's
mean,
a problem.
You didn't think a guy with drunken in the name already had a problem?
Hey, the first step is admitting it, Bard. You're okay.
Yeah, and minus is plus, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly, unless it's
They
addition.
cancel each other out.
Justification.
Oh my goodness. But she actually has kind of cool lore. Rat, you specifically know quite a
Oh,
bit.
God. Hers
Yeah.
is easily one of my favorites. Like, Assassin is just barely below her as far as stories go. So in 1812, there was a girl named Enola, and you'll know her from like the Nola's screw
Nola Screw.
bomb lance skin. But she was a little girl who basically went into the land of the dead trying to escape from the British, just because there was redcoats. So she was trying to escape from them. She went into the land of the dead, and like I can't remember how, but she wound up having just like an egg, and she was like, "Well, fuck, this is the only thing I've got with me." So I'm just gonna keep it with me until it hatches, you know?
She took it from the fort when the redcoats invaded. That was the last of her pets that survived the
Oh,
the
yeah,
British
that's what it
soldiers
was.
that attacked.
That's what it was. So she had it, and she was like, I'm just gonna keep it with me. It hatches in the land of the dead, and it's an alligator. And that's the only thing in this land that's actually growing. Like, nothing else grows. She doesn't get hungry. She doesn't get tired. She doesn't, like, nothing. She just stays the same. She doesn't age or anything. And this alligator just keeps getting bigger. So she was like, well, I'm just gonna hang out with this gator. I'm gonna name it Princess. Because, like, if I'm the queen of this land, because I'm the only thing living, then she's the princess. And so she just stays with this thing, and eventually there's like this big ship that shows up, and it's filled with all of these sailors, and they see the gator, and they're like, there's a weird energy coming off of that thing. We can harness that to get back home because we don't know where the fuck we are. So they build this cage. They trap the alligator. They use the energy, like that's the cage coming off of her neck. They use this cage to like harness the energy and like pull the ship back into the land of the living. And that's when you realize they just stole this little girl's pet and she's all alone in the land of the dead. And that's why Rotjaw's pissed. She wants to get back to her mom. That's it. That's the whole story.
And the whole raining thing is when she cries, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
girl or
The
Raja?
Rotjaw,
Rotjaw.
when Rotjaw cries, it starts to rain.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is
We
so
shouldn't be
sad.
killing Raja. What the hell
Yeah.
is wrong with you people?
Makes
Well,
me
nobody
sad.
does anyway.
I
Yeah,
got a question
we
for you,
forgot.
Red.
Right.
Yep.
I got a question for you. When Enola is rowing in her boat and she rows into the storm, right before she's taken under by the storm and she drowns and gets to the land of the dead, she sees this big insectoid eye in the distance. What do you think that is?
Well, I mean, so if you want to go into like hardcore speculation, I think that there's something more going on with the Beatles. And I think that they've got more of a connection to the other side. So I'm wondering if there's like a hive, like they've got kind of a hive mind, if you remember the lore for the Beatles.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if that's like the Beetle Queen, and if that's going to be the next boss we get.
Hmm.
All right, could be. I
Because
was
like if
thinking it could be
I feel like they can
peek
see
into the
into the
skull.
other side.
Yeah,
Oh, that would make sense because he does all the bug stuff.
yeah. But who knows? Like it's not like I'm right on the subject, but it could definitely be a connection to Beatles as well or something else.
Wait, what
Beatles
did you
seem to
think
be
it
a-
was?
Sorry, what did you say, Richard?
I was asking what you thought it was instead of like the Beatles or something.
I don't know exactly what it was, but when I read it first, the giant eye appears in the distance, and when it blinks, the storm picks up, and that's what drowns Enola. So I don't know if maybe it's the first look at the sculpture itself because
Mhm.
it's
That was.
it's
Mhm.
it's told like it's an insectoid eye, and the sculpture and the murmur stone are both tied to insects. The murmur stone is what tells the engineer to build Princess's collar.
That actually makes sense. That was going to be my theory as well.
Yeah, that was mine. That it's just
Because
a
like
glimpse at the sculptor.
we talk about the insects being a big
Mhm.
player in this whole lore, as it would make sense that the sculptor itself was some insectoid demon creature.
In the original lore, the sculpture is just this entity with like a childlike intelligence. It's basically
Mhm.
it's unable to do anything. It feeds off of misery and suffering. So the more you kill each other, the stronger you make the sculpture. That's basically that was the old loop of the story. But where they're heading with the story now, I have no idea what the sculpture is because they try to personify it, turn it into
Mhm.
like one thing where the sculpture used to be an entity that could occur in many different shades.
It was interesting too because it also originally just literally reacted to how people were fighting it. Like
Yeah.
that, it was the extent of its ability to think was, oh shit,
Survival
there's
almost.
people using or there's a lot of people just using knuckle dusters. That's blunt. Well, I guess I'm gonna make something that can't get killed very easily by blunt shit.
Yeah.
Here's an armored. And then it was
And
like, oh shit,
if you remember the armored back when they came out the first time, they were so fucking tough. They were so tough.
Can you remember about like how many melee strikes it would take?
I have no idea, but you couldn't, like, there was no way you could outrun them, and they took so many hits to kill back then.
They were as fast as immolators?
Yeah.
Oh
I think they
my
were
god.
faster.
Yeah, I think they were Yeah, when I started, I think they were.
No, when you
they were-
started, it was after me, so there's no way because armoreds were normal.
Like-
They were as they were now when we started.
Well, maybe
and-
that's
and-
just a skill issue on my part then.
And I started a little bit after, or a little bit before the as the Crowfly event, but I was watching a lot of videos of like earlier gameplay, and it seems like they were faster than the immolators.
They were mean back then. I don't remember how fast, but they took forever to kill.
Maybe they were wearing Heelys.
Hell yeah!
Can you imagine an animation of them on one heel forward and on the other back? Like
That'd be great.
teenagers, basically, with those
That's
heels.
the only way I could think of them being faster.
That they have to have one on their extra long hand because that thing drags on the floor. So they're just like,
But no, the fact that they were that fast, it makes way more sense that they're slow and tanky. They could even afford to be a little more tanky. I probably shouldn't say that. The community will hate me forever. But that's
yeah,
okay.
especially after Crytek actually does it. So
Yeah. Well, they're still susceptible to poison ammo, unlike immolators.
it makes sense to me that immolators wouldn't be susceptible to poison ammo though, because like it would burn off the poison before it could affect them.
For me, it's just that we're not going to get into balancing. That's next episode.
That's not
But-
definitely. No.
But like
Overall,
the reason that
it's
I
a
think,
fine change.
But like the reason that I think that insectoid eye is like the queen of the beetles is because they already have that really strong connection to the other side, and that's why they only see in dark sight.
Well,
But
didn't
it specifically states that the beetles scream at her from the banks of the Forever Swamp, and that's the only thing aside from like the shadows of what looks like possible alligators on the banks that when she gets too close they just disappear.
the only
So-
thing that I would say about that is that Hazmat was saying something about when it blinks, the tides rise or something like that. So why would the Beatles have any correlation or to the tides or something like that? Like
Well-
because it was trying to drown her, right?
Well, it was-
If I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, it was
I don't
just
know
saying
if it
that
was trying to drown her. I don't know if it was trying to drown her.
Yeah, it just says in the center of the wind and rain, something poked its gigantic eye through the storm like a gigantic insect. It blinked and it swept my rowboat underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's what I
came out
mean.
the other
Like
side to somewhere else.
it rose the tides, and it could be assumed that it was like it wasn't necessarily trying to kill her specifically, but it did something catastrophic, is what I mean.
so
Oh, one of you, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but before one of you mentioned something about the corruption grouping together. I don't know who said it, but if you notice around the different compounds, you'll sometimes encounter grunts laying on the ground, and they'll kind of jump scare you when every once in a
Right.
while. You know?
Uh-huh.
That used to be a thing where like 20, 30, 40 grunts would pile up in one place, and when a player would do something, maybe interact with a clue or do whatever, that would trigger all 40 grunts to become alive at the same point. Like that corruption would like group together in different places, and when the hunter interacted with something within the environment, the corruption would try to kill them. So just a little remain of what used to tie into the lore about how the corruption would like spawn or group together in several locations within the map.
That's interesting. I actually love that. I love that the corruption being connected because I for gameplay reasons it might not be viable to be like, wow, I spooked a grunt. Now the whole compound is fucking looking at me. But
well,
Yeah.
that would be
that's
great.
really fascinating. That it's almost like a hive mind,
Yeah.
like
You can also
insects.
You can also see it from the creation of armors. If you look at trees around the different maps, you'll see armors being created where people
Yeah.
are being cocooned into armors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like they're like
Within the
attached to
trees.
trees and such.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we
And the-
actually didn't. Oh, sorry, Rat. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I was gonna say the thing that like I've always really liked about the way that it works, as far as how they've explained the sculptor and the corruption working, is that it's almost like the corruption is more like the sculptor's entity, so you can't see him, but everything in it is kind of just like the Like an immune system. Like
Yeah,
you,
like it's
you
reacting.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you would be a
Yeah, yeah,
virus
yeah.
and you would destroy a cell by taking that clue. And so the immune system is reacting to that. So maybe the sculptor's not even trying to create things, it's just reacting to how you as
Nature
something
trying
trying
to
to
wipe us
destroy it.
out because we're a
Yeah.
plague. We're a virus on this planet, right?
Well-
I knew it. It was a political
That's
statement. I knew it.
Agent Smith over here.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing, it's probably been retcon because I do want to get Hazmat on retcons here in a minute. I
Oh,
don't.
dear God.
Sorry, but it's going to happen at some point. But the most fascinating thing, especially what they were talking about with grunts, is all organs looked intact except the heart. And it was that black pulsing insect, like pulsing through the veins thing, and that's
Like a
oddly
black
fascinating to me.
sphere.
It's the only organ that was affected, technically. And well,
Other than the rot.
I did want to touch on the armors a little bit and the immolators and the water devils. We can do so just briefly because we did skip over them because the bosses are so intricate. Armors are probably the most simple because well, it was the doctor that was talking about the grunts. I'm going to look up his name, Reinhard Winkler, and
Yes.
he theorized that the armoreds were nothing more than like the common grunts growing basically the husk of the rifts. If you notice, if you look on the clues themselves, they have the same husky texture as these armoreds, and it's highly flammable, but also very tough to even pierce through. But he quickly discovered that not only, or it was Harold Black that discovered not only was he wrong, it seemed that there was like a third arm protruding from their stomach. And I'm
And
not
I
sure what.
think- Sorry?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I there was not much elaboration past that.
And there was also a third guy, and he's revered by Harold Black to be the ultimate of the researchers within the Hunt universe. I forget his name. Red, maybe you can remember him.
Ah, fuck. That's give
Harold
me a
Black
second.
refers
I'm
to this
trying
guy.
to remember.
I want to say it's
Uh,
some sort of Italian name.
Scognamiglio?
Scognamiglio, exactly. He somehow refers to it being a curse, if I remember correctly. These people being cursed into crystals or something like that. And Scognamiglio's interpretations always seems to dive into philosophy and some sort of religion whenever he tries to convey his perspective to the reader. So I think that's an interesting angle as well. Though I think Harold Black is right about the armors being more like beehives, created in sort of a chitin casing.
I
Yeah.
found it. It's Tamrat Scognamiglio.
Yes.
Real quick, Ty, you wanted to bring up something about the blinking eye.
Oh yeah, so I know it's just going to be more speculation that I'm adding on top of more speculation. But so like in a biblical reference, the Lord of Flies is like the devil, is what they call him, and I think that would be somewhat synonymous with what the sculptor is using all these bugs. And I also think,
You have no idea how close you are.
yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that's kind of what my speculation is, and also with the rising tides when it blinks, I think it has a lot to do with the moon. The fact that like the false saint was like trying to get the power of the moon, and so is Sherry, but like with the blinking eye, I think it's like the opposite of the moon's power, but just as powerful or something weird like that. Again, it's mostly just speculation. But I think that it does
whole
have
thing
something to
the
do
Lord
with
of the
that.
Flies and the devil. I've promised not to say anything because Krytik might use it in the future. But you are so fucking close. You have no idea.
Makes
That's
sense.
actually
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I think there are several biblical references that we were able to find in the story, which I mean, it's always a good thing to reference because there's like really cool lessons and stories out of the Bible and stuff. But
Yeah,
not
don't get
to be
me
like
started.
religious, but like it's a good way to like, I guess, build on. Like even we were talking about Cain last night, Rat and I, too. So
What you were saying, not to be religious, but this whole thing kind of elaborates on other worlds and like a
right,
hell.
yeah.
So
Like
it kind
alternate
of brings it
history
in
as well.
itself.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
religion, all that sort of stuff, like plays a part. Politics, like all these things come together to make great storytelling.
Yeah, we've got to remember, like the original factions, there was the devoted, which was
Mhm.
a fully religious faction,
Uh-huh.
the sinners who decided that they were already damned and going to hell, so
Might
they
as
may
well
as
have fun.
yeah, they may as well just go down in infamy. The law, who while they were there to uphold the law, they were also doing the most fucked up shit. You know,
Yeah.
a la Sheriff Hardin. Uh,
Huh.
So I mean, don't get me started as far as like the religious implications here, because we don't want another Rat's conspiracy corner.
Dude, I would love that.
There you go.
I mean, I'm not sure if Hazmat listened to that episode, but holy fuck, I went in deep when I was tired as fuck.
Well, there's a reason I put a number one. I left room for error there. But real quick, because I also want to touch on them since we haven't quite touched the water devils, and they're an oddly
They're-
interesting one.
Yeah, it's kind of short, but like it also leaves a lot to be interpreted, I think, too.
Some nasty bastards got
Yeah.
worms and then went into the bayou and fucking fell into the water.
Wait, I thought it was
If
somebody
I
was
summed it up.
hungry and
Yeah,
they were
he,
eating worms.
He ate rotten food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these nasty hunters that like never bathed or anything like that. They spent more money on alcohol when they got their bounties
They were
than they did on
Swedish.
anything else. Yeah, Swedish dude.
Damn
They were like-
Swedes.
They were like, "Hey, we're not gonna fucking buy food. We can get all the food we want out of that trash can over there." And and they got worms, and then they went into the bayou. It got corrupted, and then it burst out of one of their stomachs, and that was the first water devil.
Hey man, am I
And now
doing
they're-
all right?
Now they're killing the whole aquatic ecosystem. So
Yep,
good
it
job,
was-
guys.
All the
it was-
fish.
It was Harpo and Beef Rat. That was their names.
Yeah.
Harpo and Beef Rat.
They sound disgusting.
Oh, they sound like Chads. What do you mean?
And they got worms. Like the story of when it happened, they were sitting on the shore, clutching their stomachs, thinking that they had the flu. And it says we never should have ate that meat. And then like they go to sleep, and when they wake up, like I think Beef Rat was gone, just fucking disappeared. And
I think he gets picked off by another team of hunters. I think another team of hunters shot the first guy or something like that.
yeah, and then he fell into the water, and then like the water's like exploded in worms and like nasty shit. But yeah, they flat out said that the meat that they ate was all wormy and rotten, but they ate it all the same, and then they drank away all of their money from the last bounty in a single night.
To follow up on that, when I don't remember which one of them gets shot, but it says right after that, and that's the part that they have taken out of the lore. They have completely forgotten about that. That whenever you loot a hunter, that is you going up and carving out the heart of that hunter.
Oh
And they-
shit!
I actually did not know that.
They've completely forgotten about that. So when the hunter goes up to cut out one of those dead hunter's heart, all of these maggots and worms spill out of him, and that's that pool that goes into the water and becomes the water devil. But Krycek completely forgot about it. When you go into the legend of the twins, Lynch or Collins describes them as a pair who collected an untold amount of hearts during their escapades through the bayous. So that Krycek completely forgot about that.
So it was a man named Jonas, and yeah, right here it says when you're looting them, you're cutting out their heart because you can use that as part of your bounty to like get paid. But Jonas drew his knife down the length of Harpo's body from chin to pelvis, expecting the spill of organs and the stench of foul, rotten death. He intended to take the heart, but was greeted with a great flow of thick, segmented white worms spilling from the dead man's flesh.
Fucking
They
nasty.
had already devoured the organs. Some still had blood smeared across the mouth cavities, opening and closing in the air as they sought after more flesh. And Beef Rat was like, "Oh fuck," and ran away.
And that's what happens when you
That's
inject some weird
interesting.
demon serum. So.
Well, and maybe this isn't quite tied to the story anymore, or maybe it still is. But even I believe even a lot of the traits, because it was in the story, it was saying like, oh, the hunters would come back from the bayou with supernatural powers due to their connection with the other world, so they could heal faster, they could run longer, they could,
Get
I'm
hit
naming a
with a
couple traits
bat and
here.
not die.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe necromancer, one of the most infamous traits, don't get people started, is like them channeling the power of the other world to resurrect their buddy, or the opposite. They come back from the other world, right?
I gotta admit, on that particular point, that is me interpreting the lore to my own perspective, and I don't know if that is 100% true.
I would have to guess that would, if it's not canonical, Crytek better make it canonical, because it makes the most sense.
If I
I like the
remember
idea.
right, I think it was speculated that the voodoo community was the ones that figured out the necromancy ability. But I
Yeah,
mean,
There
well,
is
it
also
made no sense to
something.
me. It made no sense to me that they brought that in because, like, the only hunter that canonically died and was brought back is the Revenant.
There is also something about the traits. I don't. Fasi told me about that so long ago, but I think there's a skull attached to the trait. So I think the trait is something that is constructed from dead people, if I remember correctly.
like the sacrifice, like we were talking about with Lynch a little bit.
Yeah, something like that. And one of you mentioned that the bone doctor also used cursed bones.
Yeah,
So yeah, there might be something tied to the bone doctor and the traits.
that's entirely possible. Like the voodoo community created these supernatural abilities that you could channel from the other world. That's cool.
I forget what the traits exactly look like, but if I remember correctly, they're like a pile of bones, maybe with a skull on it.
It looks like a bunch of rib bones shoved into a skull.
Yeah. The trait things that the meatheads poop out.
Yeah.
That would make the
It's
most
a
sense.
bunch of like it looks like femurs or rib bones or something that have been jammed through a skull like 2 or 3 times, so it makes kind
Well,
of a 4-pronged.
ribs would make the most sense because they're closest to the heart too. If we're talking about the heart being the corrupted part
Oh, I
of.
didn't even think of that.
Oh,
That's cool.
that's a fascinating thought, man.
Well, the other point that I was gonna bring up is like it never does explain why they cut the heart out of the hunters, but my guess is the AHA started paying people for the hearts of the hunters that they killed in the dead zone, because if the heart was left in the body, they would become grunts, because the heart gets turned into that spherical black tar shit with
Oh,
bugs in it.
I had never
Well,
considered that. I like that take a lot.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the
I'm
life
thinking that they were
source, so
like,
that
oh
kind of makes
shit,
sense.
if we leave that out there, there's gonna be more grunts. And that's why there's so many of the bodies that are just staying on the ground that aren't grunts. I feel
Because they cut the hearts
that's
out.
why
Yeah.
that well that's
That's an
why they
interesting angle.
I'm thinking that's why those were the ones that tend to look like the tier 1 and 2 and 3 hunters and not
I remember Tip and Rexley from the Hunt Showdown lore discussion, who are like the people that whenever whenever I have a question about lore, I ask those guys because they know they're like encyclopedias, and they speculate that the hearts are used for rituals of some sort, but they're not sure what. But I actually like your take better.
I mean, you could even link the two. Like,
Yeah,
first
you
they were like,
could.
"Hey, we'll
So
pay you for
open-ended.
these hearts so we don't have more grunts," and then somebody like Lynch was like, "Hey, we're already buying these hearts. We may as well use them to like, make this ritual or do whatever this is that we can use to fight the corruption." So like,
Right.
maybe it wasn't so much a necessity thing, but just a convenience thing. They were like, "We're killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. We're making sure there's not more grunts, and we can do these rituals that otherwise would be more difficult to do because we'd have to find somebody to kill.
Hmm.
That's
It's very
So,
fascinating. Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is
it
all making
is.
me think more about a game that I just fucking play for fun and then rage at.
You know, that's the thing, because whenever I see people on Reddit that says no one gives a shit about the lore, I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're missing out on here. There are so many games where I think like the story behind that is so fucking stupid, but there's so much depth to this game. Like you're missing out if you're not looking into the lore.
Well,
And if you don't look into the lore too, just like there's certain things you see in just in game that like otherwise you wouldn't think twice about, but then, we have discussions like this where it's like maybe these guys, because they're not jumping out, used to be hunters and they got
Mhm.
looted, so their heart's gone, so they couldn't become grunts.
But that's why we need to have
Ooh.
lore events in game.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
instead
agree.
of
Representation.
And not as rewards in the battle pass because
Yes.
especially since if people see it as a reward in a battle pass, they're more likely to skip it even. And one thing I kind of wanted to say is I specifically am guilty of being one of those people where I said people don't care about the lore, but I don't say that necessarily in a way that the lore is not worth reading. But it's exactly like Hazmat said. There's so much that they're missing and they don't know. But a lot of people are so surface level, especially on shooter games, that they don't understand that
the depth.
it's worth invest. It would literally make them like the game more. But
But it's also
how,
like, how the fuck do you approach the lore as a newcomer to the game? I have made, I think, 31 videos on the fucking lore, and it's not like Hunt does a great job of presenting it to the new players.
right? No, they
That's
do a
true.
terrible job. If anything,
Yeah.
it's exactly. I keep making this comparison. It's exactly like the Souls creators.
Yeah.
Because they break it down and they tell you the items that you would have never read the description. It's the exact same thing with people like you, Hazmat, where you like take all the information, you research it from all the people who have found it, and you put it into a comprehensible, listenable, good video. But they need to hear this shit. I agree.
Hazmat is the Vatividia of Hunt Showdown.
Oh, dude, that makes me so happy. That guy is amazing. But there's
Solves all
then
the
there's
problems.
also, no, thank you, I really appreciate that. But then there's also the problem when a guy like me puts it all together, because you can't avoid the personal interpretation. So a bit of the truth is always going to be left out, and then I'm going to warp what is actually the lore, because that's my interpretation. So yeah, it cuts both ways, I guess. It can both be good and it can be bad as well.
I'm just waiting for the lore video where you're like, previously people thought this, but more recent studies have discovered this, because you're like, shit, this has to be fucking retconned.
Well, in all fairness, though, in all fairness to you, Hazmat, you kind of cutting back at Crytek, and the more people that listen and the more people that feedback and go into their forums and talk about the lore, the more they'll have to correct and give us correct information, assuming they don't retcon everything.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think Crytek gives much of a shit about my opinion, to be honest.
Shit,
But
ours neither.
See, this is
Yeah.
where you go and make friends with Home Reel, and then make sure that shit gets through to Crytek.
I actually played a game with Homereal. It's on his channel.
Oh shit!
Fun.
Umbrell's a good
you're,
dude.
you're halfway there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like that dude.
But before we get like too like fucking lost off the rails, I did want you to talk about some of these retcons, Hazmat, because there's a lot of shit that you said pisses you off that they've gotten rid of. You already brought up the water devils and the hearts.
Yeah, so, dude, I don't even know where to start with all of the retconning. Do you have a specific topic you want to dive into?
Okay, so there's probably I'm not sure exactly where all the retcons lie, but I know the biggest one is centered around the hunters. Is there anything that they've changed specifically of like maybe the reason they go into the bayou, or like you were talking about earlier, like the carving out of the hearts? Is there anything they've changed directly with bounty, or the reason they hunt, or
One of
like
the
really?
one of the weirder retcons is that we didn't used to know what the bounty was. The bounty used to be this unspoken artifact. It had immense powers, and we didn't know what it was. But in one of the recent events, it has apparently been degraded to a token because
my God.
one of the guys, I don't remember if it's Jerry or that new guy that talks to Sheriff Harden, the guy who got off the train.
Statesman?
You're not. Yeah,
Statesman.
statesman.
I think that's the guy who rolled. It says in the lore he rolled a bounty token across his knuckles, something like that. So the bounty
Huh?
might have been reduced to simply a coin now, or like a little piece of something. Where before we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was the hunters took from the monsters.
That's
Physical
is ridiculous.
manifestation
It almost
now
sounds like.
versus-
Well, it
Yeah,
sounds
go-
kind of like Baldur's Gate 3 with the soul coins. It's like they want to take it that kind of direction, but that still doesn't make any sense.
If we look at what the wellspring is and how the wellspring behaves, the AHA says if you manage to harness the wellspring, bring back the energy to us because we can use that energy. That is the closest definition we have to anything related to clues or the other side in terms of energy.
Well, and you specifically mentioned them retcon, or they kind of retconned the redneck. Is there any other hunters that they've really screwed up their story?
And I don't know if they screwed up the story, but the redneck kind of like we had this whole thing where no one could survive inside the dead zone. That was it. I think it's Harold Black that states nothing can survive within the dead zone for more than an hour. And then Kryty goes, "Hey, this guy lives in there."
This guy's just so fucking Chad.
Yeah. So I just think that sometimes Kryty has this tendency to forget what they've put into the books because there is so much. But I can't off the top of my head think of another hunter that they screwed up in that particular way.
Okay, that's fair. Well, like
I want to say Marshall Brewer. There was at least one retcon with her.
I just want to say before you move on with anything that if there was anything that deserved a story within Hunt Showdown, it is Marshall Brewer and her infiltration of the AHA. I have no idea.
Exactly.
I have no idea why Krycek hasn't expanded on that. She is such a badass. It just makes me so sad that Krycek seems more hell-bent on broadening the lore right now than adding depth to it. And there was so much they could take from already.
there's already so many skins that are being added that A are a bit out of place, and B, they have to write a story to associate it with said hunter, and it's getting very the whole, what's the word? It's getting oversaturated.
Mm.
Speaking of weird like stories that have been attached to skins, the fucking uppercut precision skin from the I can't remember which tide. I want to say it was the second tide event. Who the fuck looked at that and said, "Hey, we're gonna write an entire story about how this group basically gives a blowjob to a called or to an uppercut, and that's how they like what the fuck."
What?
No, I'm not even kidding you. Let me pull it up. They like basically blow the barrel of this fucking uppercut precision, and that's one of their rituals for the
Yeah, they had to lick
pact.
it.
Sucking
It
on a
says-
gun barrel?
Ah, fuck.
That sounds like a good way to end up dead.
I mean, yeah, they're about to Kurt Cobain themselves, but still.
Dude, I was just about to make that joke. I was seconds from making that joke.
Yeah, so the gun is actually called Taste of Salvation.
Oh my god, so it's
Yeah.
literally in
It
the
says
name.
demented acolytes must lick the weapon that saved them. It is an act of humility and punishment. The Caldwell conversion uppercut
Oh god, ow.
precision is steeped in the saliva of the entire pact.
Well, because if it saved them, that means the gun barrel's hot. Fuck me.
Drool carries their wishes of mania to its bullets, and bullets spread their gospel true.
Oh, god damn it, Bart, I got one here. I just remembered this. The fucking black coat. What they did to my boy, the black
Oh,
coat,
no.
is unspeakable. The black coat is the biggest asshole you'll ever find within Hunt Showdown. He is a colossal contosaurus. You won't find a more self-serving, egotistical maniac than the Black Coat. He lives for no one but himself, and everyone hates him. Everybody wants to kill that guy. But here comes Kreutzig in one of the events and turns the guy into this upstanding person who speaks up for fucking feminism and suddenly
What?
wants to protect women. Like, well, I'm
What?
sitting there reading, yeah,
What?
and
He's
this
like,
is-
I
this
have
is-
2 twin daughters, and even though they committed patricide, I want to make sure that they're
He
right.
was- He was
So
going to
this is-
kill them.
Yeah, so this is how it goes, almost word for word. I'm paraphrasing, but the private eye, she investigates a clue, and someone says, "You read that all off a gourd," and then she says, "I wouldn't even have to do this if this stupid captain didn't wreck our ship." And then the captain goes, "Bad luck to let a woman speak among us." And then the Black Coat takes out a bat and hits the captain so hard in the chest that it flings him through the air. And I'm not quoting. This is word by word from the written lore from Kreutzig. It says right after that, "And there was applause."
Oh my god. Well,
Then
okay,
Obama
first off,
came out, was clapping, gave him a
First
medal.
off,
Exactly.
You
And
know,
everybody clapped.
Hazmat, I got to stop you right there because clearly that's what the coat was hiding the whole time. So that's your fault for not paying them. I'm
He
just
was
kidding.
the bat
He's got like these
reveal.
arms like fucking tree trunks.
He's
That
that
was-
reveal.
The bat
Yeah,
reveal.
that was the reveal of the bat. That should have been the trailer for the bat reveal.
Secondly, though, holy crap! What an
What a change of
And
character,
everybody
man.
I don't have words. I'm so disappointed. That
Yeah,
sucks.
and like it's for my sake at least, Blackcoat doesn't have any friends. So that's one thing. But he's also such an asshole. But he would never be with a group because no one would trust him. It's literally written into your own lore, Kreutzig.
Well, he was
If this
basically an
episode's not
assassin,
called
was he
Everybody
not?
Clap.
That's all
Yeah,
he
I-
did. He murdered other hunters and took bounty. Like he would murder anybody. He would
And
murder
he wouldn't
even.
just he wouldn't just murder them. He would partner up with them, and then he would betray them because one of his own legendaries says that he has more enemies than he has bullets.
Oh my
That
God.
is a villain that I like.
Please,
That's awesome.
Please,
He's a piece
please
of garbage.
let us name this episode "And There Was Applause."
Oh my god. Well, I love that lore. I love that he was literally the most likable villains are the most unlikable but relatable, and him living for himself in a world like that makes the most sense.
I also don't get
Well-
it. I don't get it. The only reason why Kreutzig implemented in the event is because he's popular among players. But that guy defending Private Eye, it could have been anyone else within the lore, and it would have made sense. But the Black Coat, fuck no.
Like Hawkshaw
The
Jack,
Black
but he's
Coat- the Black Coat is more likely to hit the Private Eye after she talked just to defend the captain.
well. I was
And
gonna say
frankly,
Hawkshaw.
Hawkshaw Jack died forever ago.
Well, and Hawkshaw Jack's also got noodle arms. He couldn't swing a bat so hard he could knock them in the air.
Yeah, he's more of
Like
the
inflatable noodles.
He'd do that movement as somebody talked shit on Private Eye. And they'd be like, oh well,
Don't
he's
you
defending it.
dare.
All sass, no action.
Yeah, pretty much. And
But I mean, if we gotta dive into stupid lore, have any of you looked into the guy who had sex with the moon?
What?
This is lore.
I feel like you're talking about Kevin here.
Nope, it's not Kevin, but it's a thing. It's a
Oh.
thing within the second moon event where this this woman, she takes contact to a private investigator and she's like, "Hi, blah blah blah. My husband disappears every night. And now I can't find him because
Oh
usually-
God, I remember this.
Yes. So the private investigator is like, "So where does he go?" Well, he goes to this lake, and in the lake he has interactions with his lover, and he's like, "What do you mean his lover?" It's like the moon, and the private investigator goes, "Is that a stage name?" No, like the actual moon. So the guy goes into the lake. and then he has sex with the moon, and then he comes home with burn marks on him. And not only is it's so fucking ridiculous, but Krycek never goes anywhere with it. They never use it for anything. It's just like some writer at Krycek was just like, okay, we're gonna make this guy fuck the moon, and we're never gonna follow up on it just to fuck with people.
That investigator's just like,
Wait.
is the moon in the room with us now?
That's low key genius though. That shit's gonna be in people's minds forever. And they're gonna be like,
I'm one of
wait, what
them.
about the guy that fucked the moon? They'll be like,
Yeah, I'm still
so
sitting here like fucking 3 years later. I'm like, what about that guy who fucked the moon?
The next time that they do a stream, I'm going into the comments. I'll be like, hey, can we get some elaboration on that dude who was fucking the moon in Serpent Moon?
they're gonna be so confused.
I
Gives
wonder
a
if he
whole
used
new meaning to the
protection.
Serpent
No.
Moon. He was,
Oh,
he
no.
was
Yeah,
giving
exactly.
the serpent to the moon.
Wait,
He's
if
the
he-
serpent.
If he didn't use protection though, his semen's still floating in space somewhere.
Hey, that's the stars, buddy.
Oh my god!
I'm so glad we're having a logical conversation about lore and it results in somebody fucking a
Yeah,
moon.
that did real quick. Like that went off the rails quick.
The stars at night are dull, not bright. When they're made of jizz in Texas.
I do have to ask because it might even include what you were talking about in certain lore, Hazmat. Because we always ask our guests this, and I actually have no idea, or if you've even spoken about it. What is your favorite hunter and gun skin? And you can have a few. Don't feel like you got to limit it to one.
Okay, so favorite gun skin is the Sniper's Gift. I never use it, but it looks phenomenal. It's such a beautiful skin. It's the Officer Carbine, if I remember correctly.
I was
Officer
actually
Carbine
about to
Deadeye.
ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It is beautiful. I never use it, but I think in terms of looks, that's the prettiest skin within the game.
Awesome.
I think if I had to pick a favorite hunter, it would have to be the Night Acolyte. I think she is either the Night Acolyte or Sheriff Hardin. I think Night Acolyte and the whole Night of the Hunter cult is so criminally underrepresented within the lore. And I
They
don't,
need to be represented more. Cause
yeah, and I don't exactly, and I don't respect what Krycek has done with them in the events. That doesn't represent what I deem them to be, those occultist worshippers. Like, I think she is so fucking cool. Both her and the Night Seer. I think they're amazing hunters.
The night, the one that you just mentioned, the Night Acolyte, isn't that the one that Witty always plays? Or am I mistaken? Yeah,
Are you asking me?
yeah. He's one of the major streamers, and he's got a one of the streamers at Witty has a picture. It's like the chick with the mohawk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And she,
Sorry, I was
she
trying.
dons, she rocks this big trench coat that has incantations on it written in the blood
Yes.
of demons.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a sick skin.
And then
Well,
there's
and-
the Phantom,
like that
who we've
whole
all just
cult.
decided is just Rakta.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The rock says the Phantom, basically, yeah. But that whole Night of the Hunter cult, that they worship the demons and just embrace this simulation that the corruption is doing to our world. I think that's such a cool fucking angle, and I don't know why Krycek hasn't expanded on that properly.
I certainly hope they do. Well, actually, one of the biggest hunter changes that happened recently was the most hated skin in the whole game, the
Headsman.
headsman. He looks like he's got all of the same writings on his coat. Did he become a part of the Night of the Hunter?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Because he's got the same like scribblings, like the insane scribblings on him,
Yeah, he's
and that's
even got
kind of what I was.
eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh,
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that he has the same insane scribblings as the Night.
Maybe
as
not the
Night of
same.
Hunter guys, but he
Similar.
definitely has the same ones as the Penitent. Or no, not Penitent. What's her name? The fucking
Hail
Yeah,
Mary.
Penitent's just bare chested. He's
the Prescient.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he's got all the same markings as the Prescient.
so it's like two separate. They're completely separate from each other.
I think
That
so.
actually looks, because that eye is a recurring thing. You also see several hunters, like I think the Black Coat and Sheriff Hardin has rings with that eye on it.
Interesting. Wait, Sheriff Hardin has a ring
Mhm.
Yeah,
with that
that's it.
exactly. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and in
That's
first
worth
person,
looking.
he's got that ring eye.
Oh shit! So even the headsman might be a part of something that's involving Sheriff Hardin then.
Yeah, it could be the Night Seers group. It could be Hardin. It could just be that the eyes are on there because, like, if you look at the ammo box skin from the Mountie, it has the same markings all over it.
Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that. And which weird is, it would be the Canadian that went insane, right, and started scribbling on his fucking ammo box. But no, but the fact that they're correlated even so subtly is actually incredible. I love that.
So within the lore of Hunt Showdown, I don't know exactly what this eye means, but I always thought it was a gateway to the other side, because in Bad As They Seem, Lynch uses her eye as a portal, like a gateway. She gouges out her own eye to get to the other side.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's how she. Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Oh, you're good. I was just gonna say, I think that like, I've always just seen it as representing the people who are able to use Darksight.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Well, not quite that. I was gonna say the people who are more like they went through dark side and they're more like it's sort of like a religious experience for them, and so it becomes their kind of whole identity because they're like the dark side will lead the way, right?
Yeah.
Something along those lines. That's kind of what I interpret, especially
Well-
since because the prescient literally has bandages over her eyes, like as if she only uses dark sight to see.
She's a really interesting character too.
Yeah, she's actually
like
one
an
of the more
infiltrator.
fascinating ones.
I
Yeah.
think one of the most fascinating characters that absolutely deserves some lore is the Infected. I have no idea why Krytik hasn't fucking done anything with that guy. He's the first glimpse we've gotten at what the corruption can do with people who are already immune to the infection.
Yeah.
Drake is gonna love you forever for saying that.
It's
Well,
a
and
great skin.
Rat, one thing you said where you said that that was one of the only times that the Bad Hand, when he got revived as the Revenant, you were wrong because Ochenkov's widow is the same thing. She also got revived from the dead.
No, that was different though. Hers was an
it?
experiment by Chari. With
Interesting.
the
With a
Revenant,
corpse?
his was the actual, like, he got shot in the chest. You can still see the big ass hole on Revenant, and the sculptor or like somebody using magic brought him back.
I
Like,
thought
that's
it was the
only
Bone
time-
Doctor.
I
Yeah,
think it is
but
the
I
Bone
think-
Doctor, but it's
I
the
think
only
that's
time in
in the-
canon that
It's
somebody's
in
been
the-
necromanced.
It's in the trailer, so we've already been told by Krytik that we can't trust what we see in the trailers.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds like such cope.
like
From their end.
It's so annoying. It's so annoying because we were so many that was interpreting these trailers.
But prior to the Drowned Pact being a thing, Bad Hand was the only one who had officially in canon been brought back to life using magic like necromancy.
Interesting.
And
Well,
then the Drowned Pact just came back from the land of the dead. They got killed, and then they used that rift in King Snake Mine to get back.
Now that you mention it, there was a part in Tide of Desolation or Tide of Corruption where they have to do a sort of play, some sort of mimicry to entice the energies of the sculptor. And that play has Mr. Cherry orchestrating the play where the devil's advocate is on all four, prancing around in circles in the water, pretending to be Rotjaw. When I read that,
Cute.
I was just like, what the fuck what happened to my lore, dude? What are they doing to it? Look at how they massacred my boy.
I could tell you're the most hurt by this because when I mentioned
cried.
retcons, you I could feel the physical cringe on the other end of this microphone.
I have an entire video where I just ran for like 6 minutes straight on how the Moon Saga just pissed me off.
Promise me in the future you
Moon
make
Saga was rough.
another cohesive video about some of the retcons and exactly what you think they did wrong. I would love to hear that, at least in the near
that would be
future.
lovely.
Oh god,
yeah.
I want that video to be him making a timeline, but every time they do a retcon, he like scratches out where he's at and then goes back to fix something, and then like
You
Listen
put your
to me, Lou.
you put your hazmat. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, now that Red mentions it about the timeline, Kryzek has completely fucked up any sense of cohesion within the timeline. All of these events apparently take place on top of one another. In like Huff is killed in the end of the summer 1895, as far as we know, and all of these events are happening like on top of each other right before Huff is killed.
Oh man.
It like
Yeah,
how many events have we had? Six, 7, something like that.
and it's all within like a matter of 3 years between 1895 and 1898.
Hmm.
Like,
The new ones, all of the old ones, all take place within like I think 3 months or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Like
and
the guys in the lore discussion know way more about that, but they are all going nuts about Kryzek fucking up the chronological order of anything within the game.
we might have to
Bring
reach
back
out
the old lore,
ourselves.
guys.
Yeah,
For
we
the
might have
love
to
of
reach out
God, bring
ourselves.
back the old lore, guys.
Yeah, there was
They
a lot
will.
of confusion I was noticing too. I'm glad it's not just me. So,
No, it doesn't make any sense anymore. But I also think that might be why Kryzek has decided to remove the lore. I hope they're gonna, just do a flat retcon for a bunch of shit and be like, this is out, this is in, this is what it is now.
As
They're
long
like,
as
new
it's
engine, better story. Let's fucking go.
as long as we keep some of the morbid nature, because if Hunt Showdown got like Kid Glovey with the whole story, I'd be out. I'd be like, this sucks.
I
But
mean,
that's
Coat
also one of the
proceeds
things
to-
where, sorry.
Sorry.
when we
I
no
was just
longer
gonna
cut
say
our
Black
hands, we
Coat
can't wear
proceeds to
skateboards.
marry someone and like treat his
Oh,
wife very
God.
nicely and makes
As
her
the leader of
breakfast
the
in
feminist
bed.
movement. Or, I mean, not Hazmat, sorry, Black Coat. Not,
Oh,
but yeah, no, Jesus Christ.
no, please don't.
Oh God, anything but that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need really stupid story being interjected into a zombie apocalypse.
I also feel like right now with what is going on, as I sit here and read through the events, sometimes I feel like it's just being morbidly gross to be morbidly gross, where it seemed like it
Mhm.
had a purpose before. The disgusting features of the spider, it told a story with why the spider was the way it was. Where now it's just like, yeah, this guy gets eaten alive and he screams. It's just like, oh wow, okay, but it doesn't have the same depth that it used to, and that's what really frustrates me, that the writing has taken such a decline in its overall quality.
I agree, and this is coming from somebody who would only briefly read some of the outlines, and it really felt like everything was changing in a very weird way, and a lot of the newer characters getting added, like they were trying to add this sort of pseudo craziness to a character without the corruption, like he was just crazy all along. I don't care for that. I was talking about the Hayali or whatever however the fuck you.
Oh yeah, Hiali.
Yeah, I don't much care for characters like
He's a
him.
bad
But
guy all along. You just didn't know.
yeah, can't you tell by the mask?
Anyhow, in the interest of keeping things to where people will listen for the whole time, we are coming up on 2 hours.
Right,
So we
right,
may
yeah.
want
Shit, I didn't even
to wrap
notice.
up.
Yeah, holy crap! Like,
Actually, I think we're past 2 hours. We started at
No,
noon, and it's now 2:13.
No, we didn't start right at noon. We it's going on about 2 hours and 3 minutes.
Ah,
Hazmat, do you have any final thoughts? Do you have anything else like a really final thought? You're just like, I gotta get this out while I have it on my mind.
My God, if there was one thing that was going to draw you into the lore as an overall thing, I would consider looking into Darker Waits. The whole thing where they explore the clues and how they work, it just captures the world of Hunt Showdown so well. On top of that, the hives and the meatheads, if that doesn't get you hooked on the rest of the lore within the game's universe, I don't know what will.
It
What
really
was
is the
that?
most fast. Oh, go ahead,
what
Red.
was that comic that you were talking about a while ago that was like the Dark Library or something like that?
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
about
The
the
night
hunt.
library is working
Yeah.
on Red Hunt, I think it's called, if I remember correctly. I fucking
Yeah.
did some ad for it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Red Hunt. Red Hunt is a comic book that like tries to emulate the whole universe of Hunt Showdown. As I can see, they have 12 episodes out now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
So apparently
that's-
that's really good.
Yeah, with the hives, I completely agree, especially since it like brought a vulnerability to women even in the bayou, not because of like weakness, but because of like vulnerability through like a meathead being corrupted within them and kind of stuff. That
Yeah.
stuff always fascinated. That was actually a huge fascination with it. I completely agree with Hazmat.
and that's what's such a cool thing because then you're like, well, why couldn't the women go in there? Why did they need the new serum? And I gotta find out what the
And
serum
it
is.
was
Who made the serum?
Yeah, and it's so much deeper than some surface level dumb answer. It's actually super fucking fascinating.
Yeah, it's
And,
pretty cool how you can start at the hive and be like, okay, so why does the hive exist? Okay, it exists because of that, but what about the serum? Okay, who makes the serum? Okay, Lynch, but who is Lynch? And then, like you can just keep going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, you end up like if you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Hazmat, it's like Charlie with the poster and all the strings and pins, and he's like going crazy. Yeah, yeah,
That's
what.
me.
Yeah,
I want to know how the fuck, how the fuck did she even make the hive bombs? Like, did she just piss off a hive and then like jam a jar down onto the top
Oh,
of the thing?
man.
Or, like, it makes no sense to me. And then we got barrels
just
that are
caught
filled
them.
with it.
I bet it had something to do with like actual bees, where they use like carcinogen smoke, like just like regular cigarette smoke, and just
They
knock
attracted
them
it.
out, put them in a jar.
Red, are you telling me they don't ship bees in big barrels where you're from?
No, not here. I mean, I'm
Apparently
not
they
from
just-
Louisiana, but
Shove them in hive coochies. God. All right.
yeah, they just
Moving.
They just one kid, one sandbox that jar right up into the fucking
Jesus
hive.
Christ.
Dog.
Thank God this is at the end of it. Holy shit.
man.
Most people won't hear
Jesus.
this. If you did, I'm sorry. Hazmat, you've been an absolutely amazing guest. Thank you
Oh, my
so
pleasure.
much.
My
It was-
pleasure, man.
Please, if you've made it this far, and I hope you already did when you first listened to the video, go check out Hazmat's channel. He has a much more in-depth and beautiful reading with that sultry voice of the whole lore, and it's going to break it down a lot more than a bunch of guys making weird jokes about this whole shit. And Hazmat, you're welcome back anytime if there's a huge lore dump and you just feel like you need, think of this as therapy if you want.
Yeah.
we'll be here again if
And
you
thanks for
need it.
having me. Thanks for having
We're-
me. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. And as always, Tyler, take us away.
Stay hunting.
Stay hunting, everyone.
Stay hunting.
Hazmat, give us a good outro.
I
Why not say stay hunting?
There we go.
We just did.
You heard it here, folks. Bye.
Bye.